The air around them seemed to hold its breath. Tamen and Dury stood frozen in disbelief as the Nexus beast's impossible appendage hovered just centimeters from Jiho's outstretched hand. The honey cookies, simple golden brown discs that smelled of sweetness and warmth, sat innocuously on his palm, a mundane offering to a creature that defied the laws of physics. Has he lost his mind? Tamen whispered, his crystalline structure vibrating with tension. Dury's fur had turned bone white, with fear. We need to pull him back. That thing could phase him out of existence with a thought. The beast's appendage wavered, seeming to simultaneously reach for the cookies and pull away. Its multitude of eyes swirled in patterns that suggested complex calculations or perhaps simple curiosity. Jiho remained perfectly still, his breathing calm and steady. Then he did something that made his teammates gasp in horror. He began to hum. It was a simple melody, reminiscent of an old Earth lullaby, but with subtle variations that seemed to harmonize with the strange ambient sounds of Tarlac 7. The Nexus beast's form rippled in response. Some of its eyes closed while others grew larger, focusing intently on the human. The dimensional distortions around it began to stabilize, and the floating debris drifted back to the ground. Impossible, Tamen breathed. The dimensional flux is normalizing. With exquisite gentleness, the beast extended its appendage fully and, to the astonishment of the observing students, delicately lifted a single cookie from Jiho's palm. The appendage moved in ways that should have been physically impossible, bringing the cookie to what appeared to be a mouth that hadn't existed moments before. The beast consumed the offering, its form shimmering with new patterns of light as it tasted the simple human confection. A sound emanated from it. Not the earlier discordant noise, but something almost like a purr, if a purr could exist in multiple frequencies simultaneously. It's enjoying it, Dury whispered in awe, her fur shifting to a fascinated purple. Jiho smiled and offered another cookie. My grandmother used to say that the quickest way to earn trust is through a good meal. Seems that's true even between dimensions. The beast took the second cookie, this time with more confidence. After consuming it, it moved closer to Jiho, its form settling into a more stable configuration. Still alien and impossible, but somehow less threatening. Now, Jiho said softly, reaching out his hand. Would you mind if we took some measurements? Just for a little while. I promise you can have the rest of the cookies afterward. To Tamen and Dury's continuing amazement, the beast lowered what seemed to be its head, allowing Jiho to place his hand upon it. Where his skin made contact, the beast's shifting form calmed, becoming almost solid. Tamen, Jiho called without taking his eyes off the creature. Your sensors. Now would be a good time. Shaken from his stupor, Tamen fumbled with his equipment. Yes, right, of course, activating now. The non-invasive sensors hummed to life, collecting data at an astonishing rate. Dury joined Tamen, her scientific training finally overcoming her fear as she adjusted the equipment to capture every possible reading. The dimensional stability is unprecedented, she reported, her voice thick with academic excitement. We're getting clear readings on its biological composition, energy signature, everything. Tamen's crystalline form glowed with scientific fervor. This data, it contradicts every established theory about the Nexus beast. It's not simply phase shifting. Between dimensions, it exists in all of them simultaneously. Its natural state is multidimensional. As his teammates worked frantically to document this scientific breakthrough, Jiho simply stood with the beast, occasionally offering another cookie, always speaking to it in soft, respectful tones. The creature remained calm, occasionally emitting that strange multi-frequency purr. How did you know? Dury asked Jiho during a brief pause in their data collection. How could you possibly know it would respond to cookies? Jiho shrugged. I didn't know for certain, but I've studied the historical accounts of previous expeditions and I noticed something interesting. The beast always appeared near research teams during their meal breaks. It wasn't hunting them, it was curious about their food. That's That's not mentioned in any of the academic literature, Tames said, his voice chiming with confusion. No, Jiho agreed. But if you read between the lines of the expedition logs, the pattern is there. It's always been attracted to our dimension by the smell of food, particularly sweet things. I just took a guess that honey might appeal to a being that exists across multiple planes of reality. Sweetness seems to be one of those universal constants. The beast nuzzled against Jiho's hand, its impossible geometry somehow conveying contentment. For the next 15 minutes, they gathered more data than all previous expeditions combined, documenting aspects of the creature's biology and dimensional properties that would revolutionize multiple scientific fields. Finally, Jiho gave the beast the last cookie and gently removed his hand. "Thank you for your patience," he told it respectfully. "You're free to go now." The creature lingered for a moment, its many eyes regarding Jiho with what could only be described as appreciation. Then, with a sound like wind through crystal, it began to phase shift, its form becoming increasingly transparent until, with a final flicker of impossible light, it disappeared, back to whatever multi-dimensional realm it called home. A stunned silence fell over the clearing. "We did it," Dury finally said, her fur cycling through colors of disbelief, joy, and academic pride. "We actually did it. We studied the Nexus beast without containment fields or quantum phase locks or anything." Taman's crystalline form had dimmed to a humble glow. After a long moment, he turned to Jiho. I was wrong about you. About humans. This approach, and it would never have occurred to any of us." Jiho smiled, closing his notebook where he'd been sketching the beast's ever-changing form. "Sometimes the oldest methods are the best ones. My ancestors tamed wolves with scraps of food and patient kindness long before they understood genetics or behavioral science. As they packed up their equipment, the data safely stored in multiple redundant systems, Dury noticed something on the ground where the beast had been. A small, crystalline object that seemed to shift colors as she looked. "At it, Jiho," she called, pointing. "I think it left something behind." The human approached and carefully picked up the object. It was warm to the touch and hummed with a gentle vibration. "A gift," Jiho said softly. "Or perhaps a request to visit again, someday." As they made their way back to the shuttle, the impossible landscape of Tarlac 7 seemed somehow less alien than before. They had not conquered the Nexus beast with technology or force. They had connected with it through one of the most fundamental acts of friendship across all sentient species, the sharing of food. And in doing so, they had accomplished what 17 previous expeditions had failed to do, not by dominating a strange creature, but by respecting it. The world seemed to freeze. No one moved. The star beast floated in the air, its body changing shape every few seconds. Sometimes it looked like a cloud. Sometimes it had many legs. Sometimes it seemed to disappear partly, showing the mountains. Behind it, its many eyes, if they were eyes, all turned to look at the small brown circle in Jiho's hand. The beast made a sound like metal wind chimes and thunder. Taman whispered to Dury, "It's going to eat him. We need to use the trap now." "No," Dury said. Her fur had changed to yellow with interest. "Look at its movement. It's curious, not angry." The star beast moved closer to Jiho. Now it was only 5 steps away. It was huge, bigger than their ship. It could crush Jiho easily. But the human didn't move. He kept his hand out, steady and calm. "It's okay," Jiho said to the beast. "I won't hurt you. No one has tried to talk to you before, have they? They just want to catch you and study you." The beast moved even closer. A long part of its body, maybe an arm or maybe something else, stretched out toward Jiho's hand. The arm split into 3 smaller parts at the end like fingers. Taman froze with his trap half raised. Dury's breath stopped. Even the glowing plant seemed to watch. Very gently, the beast's strange fingers touched the cookie. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the cookie floated up from Jiho's hand. It didn't look like the beast grabbed it. It seemed like the cookie just decided to fly. The cookie disappeared somewhere into the beast's body. There was a pause. Then the beast made a new sound. This one was softer, like water bubbling over rocks. "I think it likes it," Jiho said, his voice still quiet and calm. He reached slowly into his bag and took out another cookie. Again, he held it out. This time, the beast took it more quickly. The bubbling sound got louder. Our machines are recording this, right? Duri whispered to Tamen. She didn't want to speak too loudly and scare the beast. Tamen nodded. His crystal body reflected the strange colors coming from the beast. All data is being saved. But I don't understand how this is working. The beast has destroyed ships. Why? Is it being gentle now? Jiho heard them. Without turning around, he said, it destroyed ships that tried to trap it. Wouldn't you fight if someone tried to put you in a cage? The beast moved even closer to Jiho. Now it was just one step away. It was so close that Jiho could feel a strange energy coming from it. It wasn't hot or cold. It was something else. A feeling he had no word for. You've been alone here for a long time, haven't you? Jiho asked the beast. No one to talk to, no one to share with. The beast's body changed again. Now it looked almost like a large animal, with a head and body. The eyes moved to the front of the head part. They still weren't exactly eyes, more like swirling pools of light, but they were looking right at Jiho. I think it understands you, Duri said, her voice filled with wonder. Not my words, Jiho said, but my feelings, my calmness, my respect. He took another cookie from his bag. But this time, instead of holding it out, he put it on the ground in front of him. Then he took one small step back. The beast looked at the cookie on the ground. It made a confused sound. It's still for you, Jiho said. But I'd like to ask you something. We need to study you, not to hurt you or trap you, just to learn. Would you let us take some pictures and measurements? Then, you can have all the rest of my cookies. Of course, the beast couldn't understand his exact words, but something amazing happened. The beast's body became more solid, less changing. It settled into a shape like a large animal with 6 legs and a long neck. The swirling in its eyes slowed down. It was calming itself, making itself easier to see and study. Duri, Jiho said, still not looking away from the beast. Can you use your study tools now? Gently. No bright lights or loud sounds. Duri moved very slowly. Her fur was now purple with excitement. She picked up a small silver box. It had a screen on it. She pointed it at the beast and pressed a button. The box made a soft humming sound. Numbers and symbols appeared on the screen. Amazing, Duri whispered. I'm getting clear readings. The beast is made of energy and matter mixed together. It exists in our world and also in other worlds at the same time. The beast turned one eye toward Duri, watching her. It didn't seem afraid of the box. It looked back at Jiho, then down at the cookie on the ground. Go ahead, Jiho said with a smile. It's for you. The cookie floated up and disappeared into the beast. The bubbling sound came again, louder and happier. Tamen couldn't stay quiet anymore. This is not possible, he said, his crystal voice ringing with disbelief. The beast has killed people before. It destroyed ships. Why is it acting like a pet? Not a pet, Jiho corrected. A person. A different kind of person, but still a person. It can think. It can feel. It can make choices. The beast turned to look at Tamen. For a moment, the crystal student stepped back afraid. But the beast didn't attack. It seemed to be studying Tamen just as Tamen had wanted to study it. It's okay, Jiho said to the beast. He won't hurt you. None of us will. Slowly, carefully, Jiho sat down on the ground. He put his bag of cookies next to him. Would you like to sit with me for a while? He asked the beast. My friends need to do their studies. It's important to them, and you can have more cookies. To everyone's surprise, the beast lowered itself to the ground. It didn't exactly sit. Its body didn't work that way, but it settled down, becoming less tall and more spread out. It stayed near Jiho, watching him with its strange eyes. Now, Jiho said to his teammates, you can take your measurements, but remember, be gentle and respectful. Duri moved first. She took many different tools from her box. Each one made different readings of the beast, the small screens filled with numbers, pictures, and strange symbols. This is amazing data, she said, her voice excited but still quiet. No one has ever gotten readings this clear before. The beast's energy patterns are beautiful, like a song made of light. Even Tamen couldn't deny that this was working. He put down his trap machine and picked up his study tools instead. He walked slowly around the beast, keeping a safe distance, but taking readings from different angles. The dimensional shifting is controlled, he said, his voice showing his surprise. It's not random like we thought. The beast can choose which parts of it exist in which dimension at any time. For 15 minutes, they studied the star beast. It stayed calm, letting them work. Every few minutes, Jiho would give it another cookie. He talked to it the whole time, telling it about Earth and his grandmother's farm and the different animals he had known. The beast seemed to enjoy listening. Its eyes stayed focused on Jiho, and sometimes it made soft sounds in response to his voice. The 15 minutes are almost up, Dury said finally. We have more data than any team has ever collected. This is enough to pass our test many times over. Jiho nodded. He looked at the beast. Thank you for your patience, he said. You've been very kind. Here are the rest of the cookies, as I promised. He placed the bag on the ground and opened it so the beast could see the remaining cookies inside. The beast made a new sound, like soft bells. It reached out with its strange arm and the whole bag floated up. But it didn't eat the cookies right away. Instead, it held the bag and looked at Jiho, as if waiting. Go ahead, Jiho said. They're all for you. The beast's body shifted again. It grew taller, returning to its more fluid, changing form. But it didn't become scary or threatening. It seemed happy. With a sound like wind through trees, the beast and the bag of cookies began to fade. It was returning to whatever other dimension it came from, but before it disappeared completely, something fell from its body. A small shining object dropped to the ground in front of Jiho. What is that? Dury asked when the beast was fully gone. Jiho picked up the object. It was a small crystal that changed colors as he held it. Inside, tiny lights moved like stars. A gift, Jiho said. Or maybe a thank you. Tamen came closer to look at the crystal. I don't believe it, he said. The most dangerous creature known to space travelers just gave you a present. Jiho smiled. It was never dangerous, just misunderstood, and probably lonely. Dury's fur had turned bright blue with happiness. We did it. We completed the test. And we have better data than anyone has ever collected about the star beast. Tamen looked at Jiho with new respect. Your method worked. I was wrong about humans. Jiho put the crystal carefully in his pocket. It's not about being human, he said. It's about being kind. That works anywhere in the universe. As they walked back to their ship, Dury asked, Do you think the beast will come back? Jiho looked up at the purple sky. I think so. Next time I'll bring more cookies. Bringing the strange metal flower smell, they stepped onto the planet's surface. The small plants made soft sounds as they walked on them like tiny bells. I'll set up the finding machine, Tamen said. He put a round object on the ground. It opened up like a flower and started to spin. Lights came from it, scanning the area. It will tell us if the beast comes close, Tamen explained. Dury set up her study tools. She had cameras and measuring devices. These will record everything about the beast when we find it. If we find it, Tamen said. Jiho walked a few steps away from the ship. He found a flat rock and sat down. He opened his notebook and started to draw the landscape. What are you doing? Dury asked. Shouldn't you help set up? I am helping, Jiho said. I'm being calm. Animals can sense fear and worry. The school ship called Starseeker flew through space. Its engines made a soft humming sound. Inside, 40 students from 15 different planets prepared for their big test. Jiho sat by a window, looking at the stars. They moved past like bright lines. He held his small bag of cookies in his lap. The sweet smell still came through the cloth. Tamen walked over to Jiho. His crystal body caught the light from the stars. What is your plan, human? He asked. I don't see any equipment with you. Jiho patted his bag. I have what I need. Tamen made a sound like small bells. It was his way of laughing. Cookies will not help you study the star beast. It exists in 5 dimensions. It can move through solid walls. It can disappear and reappear anywhere. I know, Jiho said calmly. I read all the reports. Then you know that 17 teams with the best technology failed, Tamen said. What makes you think you can do better? I don't think I'm better, Jiho said. Just different. The reports say all the teams tried to trap the beast. None tried to meet it as a friend. Duri joined them. Her blue fur looked lighter today. She seemed less worried. I've been thinking about what you said, Jiho. It's an interesting idea. But how do you know the beast will understand friendship? It's not from any world we know. Jiho smiled. Some things work everywhere. Being kind, sharing food. These are old ways that work across the stars. Tamen made his bell laugh again. This is why humans are still so new to space travel. You think everything is like Earth. The ship's speaker made a loud beep. The captain's voice came through. We are arriving at planet X7 in 30 minutes. All teams go to your small ships. Now. Students moved quickly. They carried boxes of tools and machines. Some had weapons for protection. Jiho stood up, put his bag in his pocket, and walked to the ship area. Each team had a small ship. Jiho, Duri, and Tamen's ship was blue with white stripes. It had room for 5 people, but only 3 would go. The ship had many screens and buttons inside. I will fly, Tamen said. No one argued. His crystal hands could press many buttons. At once, the ship door closed with a hiss sound. The engines started. A hole opened in the big ship's side, and all the small ships flew out into space. Planet X7 looked strange from space. It was not blue and green like Earth. It was purple and orange with swirling clouds. Parts of it seemed to disappear and come back, like it wasn't fully in this world. Where should we land? Duri asked, looking at a map on the screen. Most teams went to the middle part of the planet, where the beast was seen most often. Let's go north, Jiho said. Tamen turned his crystal head. Why? No one has seen the beast there. Exactly, Jiho said. No one has bothered it there. If everyone is hunting you, wouldn't you go where hunters don't look? Duri's fur turned green, which meant she was thinking hard. That makes sense. It's not based on science, Tamen complained, but he still turned the ship toward the north part of the planet. As they came closer, they could see the surface. It had tall purple mountains and orange fields. Some places on the ground seemed to shimmer and shift, like heat waves on a hot day. The beast makes those effects, Duri said, pointing at the shimmering places. It changes space around it when it moves. Tamen landed the ship in a flat area between 2 mountains. The ground was covered with small plants that glowed in the dark. The sky was a deep purple color with 3 small moons. The air is safe to breathe, Duri said, checking a machine. But it smells strange, like metal and flowers mixed together. They put on their school coats, which had the school name and symbol on them. Tamen loaded his arms with tools and machines. Duri took a box with study equipment. Ready? Tamen asked. Jiho nodded. He had only his bag of cookies and his notebook. The door opened. A warm wind came in, bringing the strange metal flower smell. They stepped onto the planet's surface. The small plants made soft sounds as they walked on them, like tiny bells. I'll set up the finding machine, Tamen said. He put a round object on the ground. It opened up like a flower and started to spin. Lights came from it, scanning the area. It will tell us if the beast comes close, Tamen explained. Duri set up her study tools. She had cameras and measuring devices. These will record everything about the beast when we find it. If we find it, Tamen said. Jiho walked a few steps away from the ship. He found a flat rock and sat down. He opened his notebook and started to draw the landscape. What are you doing? Duri asked. Shouldn't you help set up? I am helping, Jiho said. I'm being calm. Animals can sense fear and worry. They stay away from it. The star beast is not an animal, Tamen said. It's a 5-dimensional being. It's alive, Jiho interrupted. That's enough to start with. For 2 hours they waited. Tamen's machine spun and beeped but found nothing. Duri checked her tools again and again. Jiho just sat, drawing and watching. The 3 moons moved across the sky. The air got cooler. This is useless, Tamen said finally. We should go to the middle of the planet where others have seen it. Just then the ground under them shook. The glowing plants turned a brighter color. The air seemed to bend like looking through moving water. Tamen's machine started beeping loudly. It's coming! Get the trap ready! Duri's fur turned white with fear and surprise. It's close, very close. Jiho stood up slowly. He put his notebook away and took out his bag of cookies. The sweet smell became stronger in the open air. The air 20 steps away from them began to twist and turn. Colors that didn't have names appeared and disappeared. A sound like singing and thunder mixed together filled their ears. The trap, Tamen shouted. Turn on the trap now. But Jiho was already walking toward the twisting air. He held one cookie in his open hand. Jiho, come back, Duri cried. It's too dangerous. The twisting got stronger. Something began to appear. It had no clear shape. Parts of it seemed to be in different places at the same time. It had many eyes that weren't really eyes and moved in ways that shouldn't be possible. The star beast had arrived. It looked at Jiho with its strange eyes. It made a sound that hurt their ears. Tamen raised his trap machine. I'll save him. The trap will... Wait, Duri said, grabbing Tamen's arm. Look. Jiho stood very still. He wasn't afraid. He held the cookie out and spoke in a soft, kind voice. Hello, he said. I brought you something. Would you like to try it? Professor Zek walked into the big classroom. He had 6 legs and shiny blue scales. The lights made his scales sparkle. His head had 5 small moving parts that waved around. He looked at his class of 40 students from many planets. Students, he said through his voice box, today I give you your final test. The students moved in their seats. Some had hard shells that made clicking sounds. Some had fur that stood up when they got excited. Others were like jelly and changed colors. Jiho sat among them. He was the only human in class. He wrote with a pen on paper, which was strange to the others. Some laughed at him for this, but others found it interesting. Professor Zek looked at the screen floating in front of him. The star beast of planet X7 has not been studied well. It can move between different worlds, making it hard to see or catch. He stopped talking for a moment. Your job is to hold this animal for 15 minutes. This is enough time to learn about it without hurting it. A student with many arms raised 3 of them. Teacher, the records show that 17 teams have tried and failed. The star beast made 13 ships disappear. That is why this test is good for you, Zek said, his scales turning bright with pride. You will work in groups of 3. This test is worth most of your grade. Jiho was put in a team with Duri and Tamen. Duri was smart but worried all the time. Her fur changed to different blues based on how nervous she felt. Tamen had a body made of crystal. He was very smart but also very proud. The human will make us fail, Tamen said in a voice that sounded like glass. Humans don't know enough about technology or mind powers for this job. Duri's fur turned dark blue. That's not nice, Tamen. Humans have done well in school before. Not in animal studies, Tamen said coldly, and never with high marks. Jiho didn't say anything. He kept drawing in his notebook. His teammates couldn't tell what he was drawing. Professor Zek spoke over the talking students. You leave for planet X7 tomorrow morning. Good luck on your test. As the other students left talking about complicated ways to catch the beast, Jiho stayed in his seat. He kept drawing. Professor Zek came over to him, floating just above the floor. You look like you're thinking hard, Earth student, the professor said. Are you worried about the test? Jiho looked up with a small smile. No, Professor. I'm just thinking about a story my grandmother told me. Professor Zek blinked his 3 eyes in confusion. I don't understand why that matters. It was about how she made friends with the wildest horse on her farm, Jiho said. Sometimes old ways work better than new machines. The professor's scales flashed in a way that showed he thought this was silly. That's a nice story, but the star beast is not a horse from Earth. You will need advanced methods. Jiho nodded politely and closed his notebook. We'll see, Professor. As he walked out, he heard Tamen and Duri already arguing about complicated ways to catch the beast. But Jiho had different ideas, much simpler ones. He remembered how humans had made friends with wild animals for thousands of years before they had any advanced technology. That night, while the other students worked on complex machines and scientific plans, Jiho went to the school kitchen. The cook, a four-armed being named Pak, looked surprised to see a student there so late. What brings you here, human? Pak asked, stirring something that smelled spicy. I need to make something, Jiho said, for the Star Beast test tomorrow. Can I use some of your supplies? Pak laughed, a rumbling sound. You think you can catch the beast with food? Many have tried with the most powerful tools in the galaxy and failed. Not catch, Jiho corrected with a smile. Meat. I don't want to trap it. I want to talk to it. Pak stared at him with all four eyes. Then he shrugged his upper shoulders. Humans are strange. What do you need? Something sweet, Jiho said. Do you have anything like sugar or honey? Pak pointed to a shelf. Sweet root powder from the moon of Laxus. It's the sweetest thing in this part of space. Jiho spent the next 2 hours mixing and baking. The kitchen filled with a warm, sweet smell. When he was done, he had a small bag of golden brown circles that looked simple but smelled wonderful. What are those? Pak asked, sniffing the air with interest. My grandmother called them honey cookies, Jiho said, though he had used sweet root instead of honey. She said no creature in the universe can resist a good cookie. Pak laughed again. I hope for your sake that the Star Beast has a sweet tooth. His room, Jiho packed his bag for the trip. While the other students were taking heavy machines and scientific tools, Jiho packed just 3 things: his notebook, the bag of cookies, and a small music player with songs from Earth. His roommate, a tall plant-like being, watched him with confusion. Is that all you're taking? How will you catch the beast? I don't want to catch it, Jiho explained. I want to meet it. There's a difference. You'll fail, his roommate said, but not unkindly. The beast is too dangerous to approach without protection. Jiho smiled as he closed his bag. My grandmother always said that fear makes animals dangerous. Respect makes them curious. And curiosity is the first step to friendship. He went to sleep that night while the other students stayed up late, working on their complex plans. Jiho dreamed of his grandmother's farm back on Earth, where wild horses would eat apples from her hand and follow her across the fields without ropes or bridles. Tomorrow, he would find out if the wildest creature in the galaxy could be approached the same way. The grand amphitheater of the Galactic Academy buzzed with excitement. News of Team 7's unprecedented success had spread throughout the scientific community, drawing dignitaries, renowned xenobiologists, and curious students from across the galaxy. The auditorium's curved walls displayed holographic representations of the data collected from the Nexus Beast, swirling patterns of multidimensional mathematics that had already sparked 3 new theoretical frameworks. Professor Krill floated at the podium, his scales shifting through hues of pride and academic excitement. Beside him stood Jiho, Duri, and Tamen, awaiting their turn to present their findings. Distinguished colleagues and esteemed students, Professor Krill began, his translator perfectly conveying the gravity in his voice. Today marks a historic moment in xenobiological studies. For centuries, the Nexus Beast of Tarlac 7, a creature that exists simultaneously across multiple dimensional planes, has eluded scientific documentation. Holographic images of previous failed expeditions flickered across the walls, the wreckage of research vessels, the frightened faces of retreating scientists, the dimensional anomalies that had swallowed entire teams. 17 previous attempts ended in failure or disaster, Krill continued. Our understanding of multidimensional entities remained theoretical at best, until now. The images shifted to the data collected by Team 7. The audience murmured in appreciation at the clarity and comprehensiveness of the readings. Team 7 has succeeded where all others failed. providing us with 17 minutes and 22 seconds of consistent, high-resolution data on the Nexus beast in a calm state. Their achievement will revolutionize not only xenobiology, but dimensional, physics, and possibly even our understanding of consciousness itself. Professor Krill's main eyes turned toward the three students. I will now invite Team 7 to explain their methodology, beginning with the architect of their approach, Earth student Jiho. A ripple of surprise moved through the audience. Many had expected Tamen, with his brilliant crystalline mind and advanced technological expertise, to have led the successful effort. Jiho stepped forward calmly, carrying nothing but his old notebook. No holograms? No complex displays? Just hand-drawn sketches and notes. Thank you, Professor Krill. His voice was steady, unembellished by the vocal modulations that many Academy presenters employed to enhance their speeches. Our approach was simple, based on principles that predate interstellar travel on my homeworld. He opened his notebook to a page showing the beast's shifting form alongside sketches of various Earth animals. Across species and worlds, certain behaviors remain constant: curiosity, hunger, the need for respect. Previous expeditions approached the Nexus beast as a subject to be contained and studied. We approached it as a being to be understood and honored. Jiho explained their process, from his observations of previous expedition logs to the preparation of honey cookies in the ship's galley. The audience's reaction shifted from scientific curiosity to something approaching wonder as he described the moment the beast accepted his offering. In the end, we didn't need quantum phase locks or dimensional tethers, he concluded. We needed patience, respect, and cookies. A few chuckles rippled through the auditorium, quickly followed by thoughtful silence. Duri stepped forward next, her fur a confident blue as she presented the biological data they had collected. Tamen followed with a brilliant analysis of the dimensional properties they had documented. His initial skepticism now transformed into passionate scientific advocacy for Jiho's approach. When the team concluded their presentation, the amphitheater erupted in a cacophony of different species' versions of applause, from the crystalline chiming of the Qualthians to the harmonic humming of the Loraxians. Professor Krill's scales flashed with colors of academic satisfaction. This team has demonstrated the perfect integration of technological expertise, observational skill, and, most surprisingly, ancient wisdom, the professor announced. Their contribution to our understanding of multidimensional beings cannot be overstated. As various dignitaries approached to congratulate them, a distinguished Vorlaxian administrator floated forward. The Academy would be honored if you would lead a follow-up expedition, Earth student Jiho. With proper funding and equipment, perhaps you could establish more prolonged contact with the Nexus beast. Before Jiho could respond, Tamen's crystalline voice rang out. If I may, Administrator, any follow-up expedition should maintain the spirit of Jiho's approach. More technology might actually hinder rather than help. Duri nodded in agreement, her fur pulsing with emphatic purple. The beast responded to simplicity and respect. Those should be our guiding principles in any future contact. The administrator's tentacles waved in acknowledgement. A wise observation. Perhaps all our xenobiological curricula could benefit from such perspective. Later, as the festivities wound down, Professor Krill approached Jiho in a quiet corner of the reception hall. I must confess, Earth student, I had doubts about your methods, the professor said, his scales a humble shade of orange. In all my cycles teaching at the Academy, I have emphasized technological solutions and cutting-edge theoretical frameworks. Jiho smiled. Those are still valuable, Professor. Tamen's sensors gave us data that would have been impossible to collect otherwise. Duri's observational frameworks provided context for understanding what we were seeing. My approach just opened the door. Krill's tentacles moved thoughtfully. You mentioned your grandmother's stories during our conversation before the expedition. May I ask what wisdom she imparted that guided you? She told me that before you can study any living thing, you must first see the world through its eyes, Jiho replied. She raised horses on Earth, large, powerful animals that could easily harm humans if they wanted to, but she never used force to tame them. She used patience, respect, and he smiled. Occasionally treats. A simple philosophy, Krill noted, yet profoundly effective. Humans have a saying, Jiho offered. The more advanced the civilization, the more it values simplicity. The professor's scales shifted to a thoughtful blue. Perhaps in our pursuit of advanced knowledge, we have overlooked the fundamental wisdoms that allowed sentient beings to survive long enough to reach the stars. As they spoke, Jiho felt a warm vibration from his pocket. He reached in and pulled out the crystalline object the Nexus beast had left behind. In the ambient light of the reception hall, it pulsed with colors that seemed to respond to the conversation. "What is that?" Professor Krill asked, his scientific curiosity immediately engaged. "A gift," Jiho replied, watching the colors shift and swirl. "Or maybe an invitation." "An invitation?" Jiho carefully returned the crystal to his pocket. "To visit again properly, not as researchers studying a subject, but as guests requesting the honor of its company." Professor Krill's scales flashed with what Jiho had come to recognize as academic epiphany. "You believe the beast is fully sentient, capable of social concepts like hospitality?" "I believe," Jiho said thoughtfully, "that sentience expresses itself in ways we might not always recognize. The universe is full of intelligences waiting to be understood on their own terms, not ours." As the reception continued around them, Jiho thought about the Nexus beast, existing in its impossible geometry across multiple dimensions. He thought about the moment it had chosen to accept his offering, not just the cookie but the respect behind it. In that moment, humanity had made first contact with a being so alien that most had considered communication impossible, not through advanced technology or complex scientific theories, but through one of the oldest human traditions, the sharing of food and the offering of friendship. Sometimes, Jiho reflected, the most advanced solution is the simplest one, a lesson humanity had carried with them from Earth all the way to the stars.